With chapter 102 of the Dragon Ball Super manga on the horizon, and everybody being particularly excited about this chapter given we have a new arc and there's lots of new circumstances that are due to be resolved in this franchise, especially regarding things like power scaling. In chapter 101, Beerus was confirmed stronger than Ultra Instinct Goku. Shortly before that, the Jump magazine stated that Beerus was stronger than Black Frieza. A lot of questions surrounding the God of Destruction of Universe 7's power are starting to be answered, but there's one major comparison that has been made to Beerus in the past regarding his power, and that is whether he is equal to Blue Fusion in terms of raw power reserves. Now, I did a poll on my community tab, guys, and if you're subscribed, you can visit my community tab and vote on these polls. So get subscribing if you're new to this channel right now, because 2024 is an exciting year to be a Dragon Ball fan. In this poll on my community tab, I put out to you guys which verse battle would you like me to cover the most, and Beerus vs Blue Fusion won by a country mile. Now, as most of you know, I've been advocating for Beerus being stronger than the likes of Ultra Instinct Goku, Ultra Ego Vegeta for a long time now, and obviously I was pretty much proven right in chapter 101. By all means, if you're still Beerus denying, let me know down in the comment section and let me know your reasons why. However, in the past, there have been comparisons between Blue Fusion and Beerus, and a lot of people are asking whether this still applies, given that a lot of people seem to think that the scaling around Beerus is vague and that he is a moving goalpost. I have done a video recently on why he's actually a standing goalpost. It's just that the gap in power has been enormous between Goku, Vegeta and Beerus this entire time, and I even listed 25 times we were told this in the manga itself. Now, to answer this question about Blue Fusion versus Beerus is quite difficult, because it is quite clear that Beerus is still the goalpost, he is still the benchmark. Of course, we have to look at when Blue Fusion first made its inception in Dragon Ball Super, and that was with Vegito Blue in the Future Trunks arc. And then of course we got Gogeta Blue in the, what you could say is the Broly arc of the Dragon Ball Super manga. Obviously the manga didn't give a full adaptation of that arc, so as a placeholder most people like to use the movie itself written by Toriyama himself as the information we use concerning Gogeta Blue. And obviously with the movie there was a lot of promotional material that came with it that implied where Broly and Gogeta Blue's power lied. But of course complications arose after the manga continued after that with the Moro arc and the Granola arc, which definitely have points of contention and should raise points of skepticism amongst even those who do believe that Blue Fusion is at Beerus' level. So guys, these aren't going to be my opinions. I'll give my opinion at the end of the video on what I think is the case, and I'm not going to say that I am diametrically for a particular version, because I do have skepticism around all these different forms of power scaling. So first off, we'll look at the one that most people relate to, because this is the information we get from the franchise itself, and it's basically what you could call statement power scaling. Now in the Dragon Ball Super manga, first time Vegito Blue's introduced, he whoops merged Zamasu all over the place. He is not struggling whatsoever in terms of their raw power reserve comparison. Even base Vegito seems to be able to fight on par with Merge Zamasu. He blows his arm off. To put Merge Zamasu's power into perspective, Merge Zamasu was relative to completed Super Saiyan Blue Goku in chapter 24, who is relative to completed Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, who fought against Beerus in chapter 27, who Beerus stated could be a God of Destruction candidate in another universe. So Merge Zamasu is likely relative to Toppo in the Tournament of Power as well. Merge Zamasu at this point considers base Vegito a threat. Now where base fusion lies is an important point, and if you're going to compare Gogeta versus Vegito, which is a debate within itself, then where their bases lie is essentially how powerful they are and which one will be stronger than the other. Now, I'm sure you remember the Jump magazine article that basically said they are both the equally matched trump cards. Now, I know there's a few disputes about the translations of these, but regardless, they're only equally useful or equally matched, or whichever translation you go for, if they are both the same. So as far as I'm concerned, this was largely potentially a retcon for both fusions to be of the same power. And even if you look at all the fusions, their bases seem to be stronger than the two Fusies' most powerful forms at the time, Super Saiyan Blue in both occasions really, and then they can stack blue transformations on top there. The stack is essentially going to be the same simply because the multipliers of the transformations doesn't really change. So that's why I said it's really where their base power lies in fusion that ultimately matters if you want to defer between both of them. Obviously, a blue fusion stack, even on top of a Future Trunks arc Super Saiyan Blue Goku, is an enormous power jump. Given that Vegito Blue is thousands upon thousands of times base Vegito, who is relevant to Toppo, completed Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and Goku, and merged Zamasu, and given that Beerus claims that Vegeta would take millions of years of training, you know, it would make sense if Beerus was, in terms of raw power, at the same similar level to Vegito Blue. Obviously, as time's gone on, there are lots of people who believe in the fast creep theory, where they believe these characters get hundreds to thousands of times stronger between each arc in their base form alone. I'm not one of those people, but I'm not saying it's as slow as to necessarily mean that Beerus can't be stronger than the Blue Fusions at the time. Of course, we got the Shin statement, the Supreme Kai, who is the other side of the coin to Beerus being a god of creation and god of destruction, that he felt that Vegito Blue's power, and I must state that this is whilst he's using the final Kamehameha, which is a huge amping attack. So forget about Vegito just being base stronger than Blue and then stacking Super Saiyan Blue on top, which is thousands of times the raw power advantage over Blue Goku at that time. He is then naturally stacking a final Kamehameha on top of that as well. So who knows how powerful it got. It was that strong, it actually broke the Potara fusion. And I know some people will say, is the Supreme Kai really that reliable? Well, you know, we did get an arc afterwards where we saw Beerus fight at full power in the God of Destruction Battle Royale, and Shin didn't go out of his way, you know, to say that I was wrong about Beerus's power or anything like that. So whilst that doesn't necessarily debunk Vegito Blue not being at Beerus's power, you know, Toyotaro had the chance to realign Beerus's power then. The Jump magazine did also state that Vegito Blue's power rivals that of Beerus. Like I said, some people have a very hard time coming to terms with this, and maybe they're right because there is reasons for skepticism, which we'll get in a moment, but the franchise is what has told us this. It's not like people are just making it up. It is in the manga itself, it's in the third-party source material itself. Even in the anime, whilst Vegito Blue got a really bad depiction in the anime compared to the manga adaptation, there are sources surrounding that anime adaptation that state that Vegito Blue rivals Beerus. So a lot of people from that point then believe that the characters just kept getting multiple times stronger, and in the anime I think it's more true than it is so in the manga. In the manga, between the Future Trunks arc and the Tournament of Power, not a lot of time passes. Goku doesn't really train, he gets rusty if anything, and he only has a couple of battles before entering the Tournament of Power, and we know they don't get massive Zenkais anymore in the manga as stated in the Future Trunks arc. So they didn't really close that gap between base fusion and blue fusion in that amount of time. It's when it gets to the Moro arc that people then start to have a hard time, because the Moro arc takes place after the Broly movie, in which we see another blue fusion. And if guys, I don't want to get into this debate too much today, but if the blue fusions are of similar power, then if Vegito Blue was that powerful, then Gogeta Blue should be as powerful, if not more powerful, than Vegito Blue from the Future Trunks arc. And of course, the consistency is there from the franchise. Now, I'm talking about statements from the franchise here, guys. Try not to take this too much as my opinion. I'm just putting forward facts that we know that the franchise has presented us with. The franchise has stated that the character that Gogeta Blue was fighting against and ultimately defeated and overwhelmed with power was that of Super Saiyan Full Power or Legendary Super Saiyan Broly. Broly, around that movie in terms of promotional material and even in the movie by Goku himself, was stated to be around Beerus, relevant to Beerus in terms of raw power. And I'm going to keep saying this term, guys, in terms of raw power. So the franchise on multiple different occasions has consistently portrayed Blue Fusion to be at Beerus's level, at least up until the end of the Broly movie. Of course, it moved beyond that after the Broly movie, when we got the Moro arc and the Granola arc, where we get statements where people rightfully get skeptical. The question is have Goku and Vegeta, in the space of a few years, and that's all it's really been, in the space of a few years, have their base forms got strong enough in that time to allow their transformation stacks on top to surpass that level of a Super Saiyan Blue fusion? If you believe in the slower power creep, you would argue not. If you believe in a faster power creep, then you're going to say yes, definitely, they've long surpassed it. These blue fusions get one-shotted, they're nowhere near Beerus's level. So we'll go through that now. Now, In the Moro arc and the Granola arc, there are interpretive statements that you can easily use to put the likes of Moro and Granola above Broly. And you could argue that Gogeta Blue, whilst being stronger than Broly, wasn't that much stronger than Broly. Now, some people may dispute that. Let me know down in the comments section. Remember, I'm just presenting two different arguments here. In the Moro arc, Moro 7-3, not even Angel Moro, gets told by Goku is tougher than anyone he's ever faced. Now, you can interpret that as meaning strongest, but it could be referring to the fact that he was just really tough to beat in terms of basically taking 6 months to defeat. No character's ever taken that long to defeat before. Correct me if I'm wrong. But once again, it's down to interpretation. A lot of people use that tough statement as meaning Moro just simply surpassed Broly. That's fine. It can absolutely mean that. Okay, let's move on. So once you get to the Granola arc, it becomes about being the strongest in the race to become the strongest in the universe. And Whis states that nobody's stronger than Goku and Vegeta specifically. Now, he does say specifically, which means there could be a condition there. However, that implies that Goku and Vegeta are the strongest in the universe, and therefore stronger than Broly as Broly is in the universe, which would mean that they've likely surpassed Blue Fusion as well. And as we know that these two characters at this point in time are not stronger than Beerus. So that would mean Beerus is stronger than Blue Fusion. If you interpret it that way, that's absolutely fine. It's absolutely plausible. It's definitely one of the potential plausible options. Of course, they go in a race to become the strongest in the universe at different times, surpassing even Granola. Of course, Gas comes along, and then obviously Frieza comes along, but you know, they're in the mix. They are likely, if you're going by the interpretation that Broly's been surpassed at this point, vastly stronger than Broly and Gogeta Blue. Of course, the theory that Broly isn't being taken into account at this point because after the Broly movie, after you reach that initial power, which could compete with a Blue Fusion, which is thousands upon thousands of times stronger than a regular Super Saiyan Blue individually, and then you could argue that Ultra Instinct after the superhero movie isn't the hundreds to thousands of times multiplier a lot of people assumed it was on top of Super Saiyan Blue, that Broly may not have been taken into account when Whis made the statement about Vegeta and Goku, and that was what his specifically terminology was about, that Whis likely knew he can't really go Super Saiyan anymore, which was basically confirmed in chapter 101. Some people will say he can turn Super Saiyan, he just can't do it reliably. Well, that's what I mean. He's not being taken into account as a warrior, he's just a complete berserker. When he goes Super Saiyan, he doesn't know who he's fighting. And ultimately, that when Goku, Vegeta, Granola, and Gas were becoming the strongest in the universe, eventually to be usurped by Frieza, that Broly wasn't being taken into account by that because he can no longer go Super Saiyan. There's a history of Dragon Ball characters, including Gohan, not retaining their rage boosts immediately until they've trained properly. Of course, Broly should get Zenkais, but is he still getting Zenkais? That's not really been elaborated upon yet. There's lots of different aspects of Broly's character that we need to find out. So that's why it's really just in a theoretical stage and it's very conditional. And ultimately that theory relies on the Granola arc essentially being around Broly basically only being taken into account his base form because that's how strong he is. And sure, he will have gotten stronger, guys. He would have gotten stronger. I can't see why he wouldn't have got a Zenkai after that battle, but can he turn into his Akari form? Can he turn Super Saiyan reliably? Is he being taken into account as the strongest warrior in the universe? It's unlikely he trained on Vampa after that incident, and obviously he's referred to in the movie material for Superhero as the strongest still, despite the fact we now know he finds it tricky to go Super Saiyan. So the question is, without Akari and Super Saiyan, has his base form got strong enough to surpass a Super Saiyan full power level multiplier? Given that he's only still competing with Super Saiyan Vegeta in base, then it doesn't seem so, but I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But guys, the reason I'm talking about these conditions is that these conditions have to be met for Blue Fusions to still be at Beerus' level, because Broly is the perfect comparison in power between him and Blue Fusion for all of these comparisons to hold up. And in chapter 73, Vegeta literally states to Granola being the strongest in the universe, and the rankings are really a reflection of the time. And if it is truly a reflection of the time, it's like a league table, and therefore Broly, if he can't retain the power at that present time, wouldn't be at the top of the table at that particular time. He was only at the top of that table during the Broly movie. But guys, that's the theory. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. A lot of people don't like it. In fact, I don't like it that much because I would prefer that Moro be the strongest, and his toughest statement to me, Moro is the strongest, because if the anime is to return, and which is something that I would very much like, that we can actually feel the tension when they fight Moro rather than no previous villains were stronger than him, which I think lessens Moro's appeal. So ultimately guys, either of these options wouldn't surprise me. I can't see why the franchise would lie about what they intend to do. The only thing I could see is that it's been quite a while now and the direction's changed, because we haven't had any fusion comparisons for quite a while. It's been quite a few years, but they haven't been debunked by the franchise itself in terms of statements from the official franchise or the authors. However, the statements in the manga based on certain interpretations, you could argue, do debunk it. But it's very interpretational, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go in the direction that Moro was stronger than Broly the entire time, and then they all just scale up from that point onwards, which would mean that they basically would treat Moro, Broly and Gogeta Blue like a bug, therefore likely Vegito Blue. But I would also like to add, based on my extensive research of the Daizenshu's, the super exciting guides, which cover the manga in great detail, well at least the Dragon Ball Z manga, that these characters don't grow in terms of raw power at the rate of the fast creep theory that people often offer. Now I can say I've found around 5 statements from the Daizenshu's and super exciting guys that refer to the fact that they do not grow as fast as people think they do, but I'm waiting to create my slow creep theory video. I do think the slow creep theory is a more grounded story than the fast creep theory, but that's just a preference on my part. But like I said, I would also prefer if Moro was stronger due to the tension in the series itself. But ultimately this would mean that Broly is getting the same treatment as Beerus, and maybe you could say he might be, as he is a movie character essentially like Beerus was in the initial Battle of Gods. But guys, here's my opinion. Whilst I could see both of these coming to fruition, regardless, even if there is the one where Blue Fusion is at the level of Beerus, it's only in terms of raw power reserves. Beerus has semi-UI, ultra ego, probably has really high levels of efficiency like Jiren, and potentially even more godly techniques, and this is just his natural power level in his base form as a purple hairless cat. Vegito Blue and Gogeta Blue are using that much power that they do not last long at all. They last a couple of minutes at best. You could argue that Vegito Blue using the final Kamehameha actually utilized more power than Gogeta Blue. All they are is relevant to Beerus in terms of raw power. If that theory is correct, they would lose horribly in a fight to Beerus. Dragon Ball Super has become much more about application of power, usage and utilization of your battle power, and Beerus is a master at it, and that's how he's being portrayed. Whilst fusion between Goku and Vegeta is often portrayed as the greatest warrior, and sure, they would be even better than Goku and Vegeta as individuals in terms of their warrior abilities, they don't have the levels of efficiency and utilization of ultra ego. You could argue Goku individually has better ultra instinct, but these fusions we're talking about don't have ultra instinct, so that wouldn't be able to compete against Beerus. One of these fusions with ultra instinct, yeah, sure, they would give Beerus a bit of trouble I imagine, but also it'd probably burn out even faster than a blue fusion. So guys, basically what I'm doing here is entertaining both theories. Both theories in my opinion are plausible. I'm not diametrically putting forward a theory, I'm just covering both theories because, like I said, I get hassled from both sides whenever I go one way or the other, even if it's not something that is 100% what I certifiably believe. Both could come true, I guess we'll have to find out, and I think we'll find out more when we get to know more about Broly's power as to whether it eradicates the Broly theory altogether. But him not being able to go Super Saiyan reliably certainly helps the slow creep theory. But in this battle, it's not close. Beerus could easily just, fend off Gogeta or Vegito until they defuse after a minute, and I don't even think Beerus will be blowing until that point, or he would likely outskill and outmaneuver Gogeta and Vegito Blue anyway. It just isn't close. But ultimately, I'm not against Gogeta Blue and Vegito Blue having the raw power reserves similar to that of Beerus, rivaling Beerus, as the franchise keeps telling us. I think it's perfectly plausible given certain conditions go the way that they would need to go. Anyway guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section on what you think about this. Hope you enjoyed this. I've covered this because you requested it, so please do smash a like on the video if you want me to cover more videos that you guys request. Make sure you visit the community tab and get your votes in on certain polls. Until next time, Ad Astra.